on YouTube. Okay, now it's streaming. So the jiva is also called the cause of the happiness and distress. And we'll look at the translation. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. We'll read the purport here, the entire purport. Yes, Janaki Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. The different manifestations of body and senses among the living entities are due to the material nature. There are 84 lakhs different species of life, and these varieties are creations of material nature. They arise from different sensual pleasures of the living entity who thus, where is that? Who thus desires to live in this body or that. When he is put into different bodies, he enjoys different kinds of happiness and distress. His material happiness and distress are due to his body and not to himself as he is. In his original state, there is no doubt of enjoyment. Therefore, that is his real state. Because of the desire to lord it over the material nature, he is in the material world. In the spiritual world, there is no such thing. The spiritual world is pure. But in the material world, everyone is struggling hard to acquire different kinds of pleasures for the body. It might be more clear to state that this body is the effect of the senses. The senses are instruments for gratifying desire. Now, the sum total of, that is, body and instrument senses is offered by material nature. And as will be clear in the next verse, the living entity is blessed or damned with circumstances according to his past desire and activity. According to one's desires and activities, material nature places one in various residential quarters. The being himself is the cause of his attaining such residential quarters and his attendant enjoyment or suffering. Once placed in some particular kind of body, he comes under the control of nature because the body, being matter, acts according to the laws of nature. And at that time, the living entity has no power to change that law. Suppose an entity is put into the body of a dog. As soon as he's put into the body of a dog, he must act like a dog. He cannot act otherwise. And if the living entity is put into the body of a hog, then he's forced to eat stool and act like a hog. Similarly, if the living entity is put into the body of a demigod, he must act according to his body. This is a law of nature. But in all circumstances, the super soul is with the individual soul. That is explained in the Vedas, Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.1 as follows. Where is it, Prabhuji? It says, Dvat Suparna Sayujya Sakayaha. The Supreme Lord is so kind upon the living entity that he always accompanies the individual soul and in all circumstances is present as a super soul, as a Paramatma. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
So thank you. The living entity also acts as a cause. Now, how it happens is, let's take the example of a car. A car is an inanimate object. And there is a person who is animate. And when that person enters into the car also becomes animate. Because of the man coming in contact with the car begins to move, make sound, blink lights. So the car becomes animate because of the man. Similarly, the Prakriti is inanimate, but when a jiva enters into it, animate jiva, then that Prakriti also starts exhibiting life or activities. So this is how they work together. The animate jiva animates the inanimate Prakriti. And it appears as if the Prakriti is acting independently, but it is not. Just like an iron rod in touch with fire also becomes fiery. That doesn't mean that iron becomes fire. No, it's the fire which is borrowed by the iron rod from the fire. The quality of fire is borrowed by the iron rod. And then as long as it has that quality or it's in touch with that quality, it works like fire. Similarly, as long as the Prakriti is in contact with Jiva, the Prakriti, looks animated. Otherwise, it's inanimate. So they work together in this way. Now, next verse. Now, how did this union happen? How did they begin to come together in this manner? So Krishna answers in the next verse. Purushaha prakriti stho hi bhungte prakriti jar gunan karanam gunasangosya sad asadyo nijanmasho. Yes, Ratnangi Lakshmi Priya Mataji. Please read.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada. This verse is very important for an understanding of how living entities
Transmigrates.
Yes. Living entities transmigrates from one body to another. It is explained in the second chapter that the living entity is transmigrating from one body to another, just as one changes dress. This change of dress is due to his attachment to material existence. As long as he is captivated by this false manifestation, he has to continue transmigrating from one body to another. Due to his desire to lord it over material nature, he is put into such undesirable circumstances under the influence of material desire. The entity is born sometimes as a demigod, sometimes as a man, sometimes as a beast, as a bird, as a worm, as an aquatic, as a saintly man, as a bug. This is going on. And in all cases, the living entity thinks himself to be the master of his circumstances, yet he is under the influence of material nature. How he is put into such different bodies is explained here. It is due to association with the different modes of nature. One has to rise, therefore, above the three material modes and become situated in the transcendental position. This is called Krishna consciousness. Unless one is situated in Krishna consciousness, his material consciousness will oblige him to transfer from one body to another because he has material desires since time immemorial. But he has to change that conception. That change can be effected only by hearing from authoritative sources. The best example is here. Arjuna is hearing the signs of God from Krishna. The living entity is, if he submits to this hearing process, will lose his long cherished desire to dominate material nature, and gradually and proportionately, as he reduces his long desire to dominate, he comes to enjoy spiritual happiness. In the Vedic mantra, it is said that as he becomes learned in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he proportionately relishes his eternal blissful life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the living entity comes into contact with material nature. Why? Due to his impressions of beginningless karma. Anadi karma phala is being enjoyed by that living entity. The jiva acts as the agent. And how these imprints of karma get destroyed? Only by the association of devotees. That's why in Chaitanya Charitamrita there is a verse, Krishna boli se jiv anadi bahirmukha ateva maya tare deya sansara dukha. Krishna boli se jiv, after forgetting Krishna, anadi bahirmukha, anadi means beginningless. Bahirmukha means not facing Krishna, facing away from Krishna. And that's going on since immemorial time. Because of that, ataiva maya tare deya sansara dukha. Because of that, that living entity gets so much of suffering in material world. And Srila Prabhupada made it very simple. Of course, our false ego doesn't allow us to accept it. But if Srila Prabhupada is asked this question, why are we unhappy? He will give a very simple answer for that. He'll say, because we are disobedient to God. Very simple answer. This obedience to God makes us unhappy. Now, this same thing may not be agreed upon by many other people. They may say, no, we are actually obeying God. We do everything what God wants us to do. and stuff like that. Shiva says, disobedience to God leads to breaking the laws made by God, and that leads to suffering in life. Solution is very simple. You start obeying God again. Right? So that's the explanation given here. Very straightforward explanation. Listen, when the disease is chronic, the cure also takes quite some time to bring the disease back to healthy condition. So the disease of the living entity, conditioned soul, is quite chronic. It's since long time. And to then come out of the disease condition will also take some time. Some time will be required to fix up everything. I will do an exercise. I request you to do it individually. Read the verses 327, 1321, 1330, and 14.19. You can read the translation of these verses. And then try to find out the answer to these 4 questions. Request devotees to put their video cameras on. No, some of you hardly participate in the class by keeping your video cameras on. So do participate actively. Don't be a passive participant.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Can I say something, Prabhu? Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
You want to tell the answer to the question?
Yeah, Prabhuji, whatever I have understood by reading these 4 verses of Bhagavad-gita. So I have
Prabhu,
come
tell
to know
the
one
answer
thing
for-
that
Tell the answer for question 1.
okay. What do you think? So I have come to know that this whole creation is means controlled by Lord Krishna by his 3 kinds of energy, that is called Sattva, Tama, and Rajaguna. And so we should always surrender to him, and we should means lead a life where we can means keep Krishna in the center. Then only we can be happy in this material world, because he is the controller of this whole creation.
Okay.
Otherwise, there is no chance.
All right, fine. Thank you. Anyone else for the first question? What do you conclude by reading the verses given there? Reading the verses means just reading the translation, I would say. Sureka Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Sadhak Pranam. Prabhuji, all these verses conclude that all the acts the jiva does is under the influence of 3 modes of material nature. Either he wants to do or he doesn't want to do. The material nature forces him or her to do those acts.
Okay. Good. Thank you. So that's the point in these 4 verses, that the 3 modes of material nature does, or is the doer, right? It does all the activities. That's the answer for the first question. Then the 3 modes of material nature does everything. Now, the second question. Since the material nature, Prakriti, is unconscious element, how is it the doer? Anjumataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam. It is the doer by providing body to the jiva.
Okay. So because it provides the body, it becomes the doer.
Yeah, because then that becomes the vehicle. And so this body, because of this vehicle, jiva is able to associate with the 3 modes of material nature all the more.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you. Yes, someone else would say. Amrita Vilasini Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji Dandana Prana. I think in the verse 1327, in the purpose at the end, it says that the material nature is created by him, by Krishna, and the superior nature is placed in this material nature, and thus all these activities and the manifestation take place. That's what I read from the
Yes,
book. Yes.
correct. The
Hare
question
Krishna.
is, how is Prakriti the doer? It's unconscious element. If it is unconscious, how is it the doer? Lokesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, like you gave an example of a car. If a car sometime met an accident, if the car did it, like we are inside the car, but car when what to say, smash it to something. The car is also becomes doer, but the actual doer is inside.
Okay.
No.
Ashok Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. This material Prakriti is unconscious, but when it comes into contact with the superior energy, that is the living entity, and it becomes a means of doing what the living entity wants, because both are functioning under the overall control of the Supreme Personality.
Okay, good. Yes, so because it is in contact with the conscious energy, it also acts as if it is conscious. So that's why it's considered as the doer. Just like the hand of the body lifts up a cup of tea or coffee. So the hand lifts it up. The hand does the job. But the hand cannot do it without the support of the body. So I would say I lifted the cup, but actually my hand lifted the cup. The hand is the instrument. Similarly, Prakriti is the instrument. So Prakriti becomes the doer. because it's involved in it. Hmm? Next verse. Next question, sorry. Can Prakriti act, desire, perceive, acquire knowledge? Anit Mataji?
No, Prabhuji.
No, Prakriti cannot. Why?
Because Prakriti is not conscious.
Yes, Prakriti is not conscious.
You can act, desire, perceive, and acquire knowledge.
Yes, still it is called a doer. Though it is unconscious, though it cannot act, desire, perceive, or acquire knowledge on its own independently. Of course, it can do that depending on the soul, but it cannot do it independently. So that's why it's called a doer. At the same time, it's not the original doer. Okay, now what knowledge or message actually these two verses want to give us? These four verses, what message do they want to give us? Srinivas Gopal Prabhu, do you know the answer for this?
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, the jiva, when he is under influence of these gunas, and then he identifies himself with the prakriti, then he thinks he is the doer.
Okay, what else?
And because and then three modes influence is always there, and when the jiva is out, means come to a conscious of means we out of these three modes, then he's not the doer.
Okay, fine, thank you.
As long he's under influence, he's the doer. He thinks he's the doer.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. One more point we'll take. Paramita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I think that it is the Supreme Lord who controls us using these three modes of material nature, and who is transcendental to all these modes. He is only able to attain the spiritual nature. I mean, that person who has the control over this material nature, the three modes of material nature, that person will be able to attain the spiritual nature. He will be able to reach God in that way by controlling the three modes.
Okay, fine. So actually these statements, the four verses that we read, it has been given in Bhagavad-gita to again explain the dependence of the jiva on the material nature in the conditioned state. That the jiva in the conditioned state cannot execute anything without the help of the three modes of material nature. I give the example. The body lifts up an object using the hand. So the hand is helping the body. In that case, the hand becomes an instrument or a doer. Similarly, the jiva accomplishes things using Prakriti. So here prominence is given to Prakriti. However, we have verses in Bhagavad-gita which also say that the jiva does. Like, for example, the verse we read before, verse number 21 of this chapter. Purushaha sukha dukkhanam bhoktritve hetur uchyate. The word hetu means cause. So it says the jiva is the cause. And then we have verses which says, no, Prakriti is the cause. And then we have verses which says, no, the super soul is the cause. So the cause, all these are causes, but in different manners or different ways. And we have to understand it in that way, complete way. So here conditioned souls who are Prakriti by constitution becomes Purusha because of mentality. In this chapter, if someone asks you the question, who is Purusha and what is Prakriti? So the answer will be, actually Prakriti can mean both material nature, it can also mean living entity. Both are Prakriti. If Krishna is taken as the Purusha, right? But in conditioned state, what happens? The living entity who is Prakriti imagines itself to be a Purusha. So by constitution, even living entity is Prakriti, enjoyed, but in conditioned state, that living entity considers itself to be a Purusha, enjoyer. Right? So Prakriti word applies to both Purusha and Prakriti in that sense. And the word Purusha also applies to both individual soul and super soul. Now, let's read this news. It's a real news. Someone would like to read it? Yes, Seema Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Playing online video games may be relaxing for some time, but getting too much addicted may lead to extremities. In one such case, two brothers in Delhi have become so much addicted to games that they forgot to eat, sleep, and even stopped emptying the bladder. The brothers, one aged 22 and the other 19, played continuously for more than 18 hours without eating or sleeping. It got so bad that they even started urinating and defecating in their pants. Twice, even their homes were looted when they were playing. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
So now when you read such a news, can you tell me one word that comes to your mind? One word, just one word, whatever it is. You can put in the chat box. Addiction. Okay. Stupidity. Unconscious. Enjoying. Really you call it enjoy. Okay, Maya. No one wrote the word madness. Conditioning state of conditioning of guna. Crazy. Yes. Deluded mind. Slavery. Unalloyed dedication and concentration. Tamasic pravritti. Mode of ignorance. Under the three modes. Insane. Yes. Mad. Correct. Crazy. Foolish. Rascals. Ignorance. One word. I said one word. So not two or four. One word. One best word to describe their state of mind. Immaturity. Loss of senses, stupidity, deluded, concentration, okay, illusion, tamoguna, disconnected, madness. All right, fine. So what they were doing for 18 hours, that's what we do for our whole life. Disconnected from spiritual reality. So our existence is also something like their virtual playing the game. You see, such a nice burger would have come to them, pizza, samosa, kachori, sweets, juice, whatever. But they were so absorbed in playing the game, they did not take out time to enjoy what is actually enjoyable. They were neglecting what is actually enjoyable. And they were happy in the virtual reality. Why? Because they had projected their consciousness into the game. And they were too much identifying with the character of the game. They forgot that they exist separate from that character, right? That character became themselves. And they, in that state, what happened? They were so much alive in the character's journey or character's activities that they forgot that we too have a life to live. So they forgot eating, they forgot sleeping, they forgot attending to call of nature, because they were so much absorbed in the character. And that's what happens with the conditioned soul also. Conditioned soul forgets the spiritual life, the true actual life, what gives spiritual happiness. And then it identifies too much with that external character, our identity. And is busy doing the activities of that identity, but has forgotten one's true nature. Who am I? So this exactly depicts our situation. So if Srila Prabhupada, when he writes and he says conditioned souls are mad, how is he wrong? We are also calling these two boys mad. Right? If he says obsessed, insane, deluded, ignorant fools, rascals, so he is not using the wrong words. He is using exactly the same words which we would use for these two brothers. Same words. So our situation is very much similar. We have accepted something which is not real as real. Why? Because we have projected our consciousness there, and that made us forget our real life, because of which we are pursuing happiness, but in the wrong platform. This is called virtual reality. And this is how the jiva thinks he is enjoying in the material nature, right? The jiva thinks I am enjoying, but the jiva does not. If you don't have an experience, play some video game, and you'll soon identify with the character in that game. You'll start thinking, I am that character. You'll forget the reality. So this is what happens with us, the living entities. Okay, next verse. Now what does Paramatma do? Upadrashta anumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapyukto dehesmin purushah paraha. So 8 qualities of Paramatma are mentioned in this verse. Upadrashta, Anumanta, Bharata, Bhokta, Maheshwaraha, Paramatma, Purushaha, Paraha. These are the 8 characteristics of Paramatma. And how is Paramatma related to the Jivatma? He is Upadrashta and Anumanta. He oversees. Upa means close. Drashta means to see. So he is very close to us and seeing us, watching us. And Anumanta, he gives permission to what we do. That's his relationship with us. So let's look at the translation. Yet in this body, there's another transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul. We'll read the second paragraph. Rasheshwari Mataji.
Hare Krishna. It is stated here.
The second paragraph, this one. The fact is
the fact is that every individual living entity is eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and both of them are very intimately related as friends, but the living entity has the tendency to reject the sanction of the Supreme Lord and act independently in an attempt to dominate nature. And because he has this tendency, he is called the marginal energy of the Supreme Lord. The living entity can be situated either in the material energy or in the spiritual energy. As long as he is conditioned by the material energy, the Supreme Lord as his friend, the super soul stays with him just to get him to return to the spiritual energy. The Lord is always eager to take him back to the spiritual energy, but due to his minute independence, the individual entity is continually rejecting the association of the supreme light. This misuse of independence is the cause of his material strife in the conditioned Haribol, in the conditioned nature. The Lord, therefore, is always giving instruction from within and from without. From without, he gives instructions as stated in Bhagavad-gita, and from within, he tries to convince the living entity that his activities in the material field are not conducive to real happiness. Just give it up and turn your fate toward me. Then you will be happy. He says, thus the intelligent person who places his faith in the Paramatma or the Supreme Personality of Godhead begins to advance toward a blissful eternal life of knowledge. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, just give it up and turn your faith toward me. That's what Krishna wants. Then you will be happy. He says, the Supreme Lord says, just turn and face towards me. Okay, next verse. Verse number 24 and 25. Ya evam vetti purusham prakritim cha gunai saha sarvata vartamanopi na sa bhuyo bhijayate. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. Achyuta Priya Krishna Rimach.
Hare Krishna, Bhakti. Clear understanding of material nature, the super soul, the individual soul, and their interrelations makes one eligible to become liberated and turn to the spiritual atmosphere without being forced to return to this material nature. This is the result of knowledge. This is the result of knowledge. The purpose of knowledge is to understand distinctly that the living entity has by chance fallen into this material existence by his personal endeavor in association with authorities, saintly person, and a spiritual master. He has to understand his position and then diverge to spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness by understanding Bhagavad-gita as it is explained by the personality of Godhead. Then it is certain that he will never come again into this material existence. He will be transferred into the spiritual birth for a blissful eternal life of knowledge. Hare Krishna.
Next verse. Dhyanena atmani pashyanti kechidatmanam atmana anyasankhena yogena karma yogena chapare. So here now the result of perceiving in this way is being described actually in verses 24, 25, and 26. Now before we read this verse, let us do another exercise, simple one. Let's say in Bangalore, India, 22nd October 2022, a murder happened. Murder was executed using a gun, 2 bullets. Robin shot the bullets. Samir assisted him. Manish was killed. Who or what is the cause of the murder here? Gun, bullets, Robin, Samir, Robin's hand, Samir's planning, Manish, super soul. Now you have to answer it thinking a little deeply. Who is the cause of the murder here?
So Samir's planning, Prabhuji.
You can put the answer in the chat box.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Samir's planning, super soul, modes of nature, soul, Manish past karma. All of them. Our ultimate responsibility is Samir, Manish himself. Robin and Samir. Robin, Samir's planning. Robin, all of them, super soul, Manish, Paramatma. Robin, not super soul. Everyone except super soul. Okay. Cause of the murder is due to lack of understanding of life and our relationship with the Lord. All right, so what's the answer is? The answer is all of them. All of them are the cause for the murder. Everything mentioned in the list. But they are not the same cause. They're all the cause, but they're not the same. The gun, the bullet, they are the material cause. Manish is the causal cause. Causal cause means Manish's karma has caused this thing. So he's the causal cause. Robin's hand and Samir's planning, that is also material cause. Robin and Samir, they are the efficient cause. and super soul is the remote cause. So they are all causes, but there are different types of causes. So the gun, the bullets, the hand, and the planning, they are called material cause because they are made available or arranged by the material nature. So they're called the material cause. The gun is Prakriti, the bullets are Prakriti, the hand is Prakriti, the planning which is happening in the mind is also Prakriti. So they're called material cause. Then Manish is the causal cause because it was Manish's karma. And then Robin and Samir, they executed. So they became the agent. So they are called the efficient cause. And that's why they will be punished. Both will be punished. And who is the remote cause? Super soul. Why? Upadrashta Anumanta. He made Manish, he made Samir, he made Robin, he made the hand. He gave the mind and intelligence to plan. The Prakriti is coming from him. So the gun is coming from him. The bullets are coming from him. So he's the remote cause, right? The original cause. So this is how we understand the subject from the Vedanta perspective or the perspective of Srimad Gita, Bhagavad-gita and Bhagavatam. This is called complete understanding. This understanding is not lacking in truth. Of course, Robin and Samir will be punished. But then we also understand the overall picture. And they are all the causes, but they are different kinds of causes. Okay, so this is the explanation here. Any questions here? Comments?
Yes, Your Grace, please accept my humble obeisances. I have a question. My question is, Manish died because of his karma. So if Robin has to kill Manish, and he also accumulated the karma, and he also has to be killed. So how can this end? Because it's more like a cycle.
Yeah, it's like a vicious
so how
cycle.
can this possibly end, this karma?
This will end if the person who is supposed to become the revenge taker forgives. Then it will end.
Come again, please.
The person who is supposed to take the revenge forgives.
Yes. Oh, okay. For instance, if he has to kill, then he denied to kill. He didn't take the action, something like that.
Yes, if he forgives, then he's out of that cycle.
Okay. So,
right.
So how would this be possible? Because if Manish was killed by Robin, and Robin is supposed to be killed because of his karma. I hope you understand my question.
I understand your question. So let's say Manish is supposed to be killed because of his karma, and Robin and Samir are put into the situation where they can execute the task of killing. If Robin and Samir, they forgive, they quit. So Manish will be killed by someone else, or something else will become the cause of killing of Manish. But Robin and Samir, they have saved themselves from that cycle of karma by forgiving.
Yes, but my question is, for instance, if this is the arrangement of nature that he has killed, so he's supposed to be killed, how can he how can he stop this if it is arrangement of nature?
No, so you're not understanding. We are not talking about Manish stopping it, right? We are talking about the killer stopping it.
Okay.
Robin and Samir, they have the choice to kill or not kill.
Okay, okay.
So if they forgive, then the chain breaks, right? The link breaks.
Oh, okay.
So
okay, so for instance, maybe somebody killed my son or my brother or something, and I'm supposed to kill that person. Then if I didn't kill the person, then that thing breaks.
Yeah, if you didn't kill, you are free from that karma cycle. Correct? Now, that person is supposed to be punished. So Yamadutas or Yamaraj will punish that person. And because they do give the punishment under the order of the Supreme Lord, they don't get any karma for it.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
So
Yes.
if you take the thing in your hands, you become a part of the whole cycle. And if you come out of it by forgiving, then you are out of that cycle. Now, what reaction Manish is supposed to get, that will be arranged by material nature in some other way, but you are out of it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Understand.
Right? So one cannot say, no, this is supposed to happen, so this will happen anyway. I have no control. I have no choice. You have the choice. You have the choice.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
Prabhuji,
Prabhu.
is this the reason that generally the spiritual persons say that you should ask for forgiveness and you should forgive the sins of the other person, so that we cannot be in that vicious circle?
Yes, that is the reason why we should develop the quality of forgiveness, because forgiveness helps us to come out of this cycle of karma. When you forgive, then you are basically freeing yourself from that action, reaction, give and take thing. You are
And
quitting from
sometimes it, Prabhuji, sorry to interrupt, sometimes it happens that we have, when we feel that we have done wrong with someone is not on this earth, he has already gone. What is the process to ask for forgiveness?
in that case, we should ask for forgiveness in the mind. We can pray to the Supreme Lord and ask for forgiveness because that person is not present anymore. So we can do that. Or if are doing something wrong, not only cause trouble for that person, but for others also who are related to that person. So our asking for forgiveness to that person can be extended to asking for forgiveness from others who are related to that person. In that way, because they are representatives of that person. If they forgive, then that person has also forgiven. In that way. All right. Someone else? Srinivas Gopal Prabhu, anything to say?
Yes, Prabhuji, I have two doubts. Like in the sloka 23, the God, the super soul is having Upadrishta, Anumanta, and Bharta, Bhokta, Maheshwara. Because Prabhupada translated as a transcendental enjoyer and the Lord and the supreme operator, and exists as an overseer, permits. For every action, these all will be counted, or like if a jiva does anything, all this will be counted, or only one action will be acted.
Means
Like he will be the overseer in the market.
No, these are the functions of the super soul. He is the enjoyer, he is the overseer, he is the permitter, he is the master.
But we cannot say in this matter case what you gave this.
He
You are
is
seeing
given,
that he's
he
a
has
remote
given,
cause.
yeah, he has given the permission.
But how he can be the enjoyer there in that situation?
Nice question. How can we enjoy? Because you see, when we look at this situation or this experience, our suffering and our happiness in material world, if you look it from Krishna's perspective or Paramatma's perspective, both are illusion. We take it very, if you look at our happiness or our suffering, if you take it from Paramatma's perspective, both are illusion.
Okay.
Like from our perspective, we take it so seriously. I'm happy now, or I'm sad now, I'm crying, I'm enjoying. But from Paramatma's perspective, both are illusion. Like, to give an example, a drama is going on and someone is badly beating the other guy, right? Now what does the audience do? They enjoy, no?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Because they know it's a drama, right? They enjoy or not?
Even spiritual happiness, Prabhuji.
Huh?
Even spiritual happiness.
I did not get what you're saying.
I said even spiritual happiness.
We're not talking about spiritual happiness. We're talking about material activities now. So material happiness and suffering, both are happening on the illusory plane, right? So the super soul as the enjoyer means what? Regardless of whether you are enjoying or you are suffering, which is happening on an illusory platform, the nature of super soul is that he is always happy. He's always the enjoyer, bhokta. But it doesn't mean that he enjoys seeing you suffer. Not like that. It's nature to enjoy. He's enjoying. It's nature to enjoy, because from his perspective, when we say I'm suffering, actually we are not suffering. It is our illusion which is making us think that we are suffering, right? We are not suffering. We are thinking I'm suffering. We are not suffering. It's an illusion which makes us think so. So from the transcendental perspective, it's just enjoyment, because it is basically a drama. Sometimes crying, sometimes happy, sometimes successful, sometimes not successful. So the super soul enjoys looking at the arrangements made by material nature, as a spectator, as an observer. He enjoys. That's his position. And when one becomes spiritually situated like the super soul, when one becomes Brahman realized, then that person also becomes like that only. So because that person sees others suffering and enjoying like an illusion. So sometimes when others are suffering, that person will laugh. And sometimes when others are enjoying, that person will feel sad. Quite contrary to what we think should be happening. When someone is suffering, you should be also sad. And when someone is happy, you should also be happy. But a liberated soul will sometimes act otherwise. When people are enjoying, they will say, oh, poor souls. They are thinking they're enjoying. And when the deluded living entities are suffering, then again he will laugh. Oh, how foolish they are. They are thinking they're suffering. Right? So he's always the enjoyer. Purushaha, Bharata, enjoyer. But that is not conditional enjoyment, the way we think. He's observing and enjoying our, and that we are suffering. No, not like that. Okay, next question, Usha Mataji.
Prabhuji, I was just thinking that maybe Manish was killed, maybe due to the new karmic cycle also, maybe somebody else was supposed to be killed. Is it possible, Prabhuji, in this case also?
No, there has to be some cause from Manish's past also. It's not that Manish will be killed without Manish having any involvement as per his karma. It has to be something.
So maybe that's the end of his life cycle then. It is already decided. The expiry date is already decided.
Yes, sometimes people are shot, but they get saved also, no? So in this case, finish. So finish. Right.
Thank you.
But then kill, but then doesn't mean the soul is killed. Again, we'll get to birth. Manish will come again in another form. So the drama will continue. Right? That will go on. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can I ask one question? Hare
Yes.
Krishna, Prabhuji, you said that the super soul is the remote cause of all these, providing the gun and the bullets and everything. But I'm sure super soul doesn't want that the living entity should be using all these elements against in the wrong manner. Is it the minute
Yeah, of
independence
course, the
which he
super
gives?
soul does not want that. But the super soul does not desire that. But all those things are provided to the jivas because of the jivas' desire, no? Super soul doesn't want that. Super soul wants that the jiva goes back home, back to Godhead, and be engaged in the eternal service of the Supreme Lord.
So he
Not-
leaves it to the minute independence of the jivas which he has given to them?
Yes, yes, it's up to the independence of the jiva.
Whether they should use it in the wrong manner or they should not use it.
Yeah,
Okay.
up to the jiva, no?
Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay, Arati Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, one question I had was like, suppose somebody ill-treats me, and then without forgiving that person, I just take the shelter of the Lord. Then am I out of the karmic cycle, or how is it? How does it work, Prabhu?
Without forgiving, how can you take shelter of the Lord?
I mean, asking for his help or to deal with the situation or whatever. I'm not actually forgiving, but then I'm seeking his help and I'm taking his shelter. In that case, like, I mean.
So if you seek his help, the first thing he's going to tell you is forgive him or her.
Okay.
Because if we are not forgiving, we are causing harm to ourselves.
Okay.
We are not forgive. Right? So then the Lord will tell you, forgive. That's the first thing he will tell.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Janaki Mataji.
Not really a question, but just a comment or just a thought that, since the time I've been reading these scriptures, when you look at, just take up to put things into perspective, when you look at the justice system today, there are several and very many judgments that keep coming every day that, that puts you off on a tizzy. You really wonder, where is it? What is it that's going wrong? So, to kind of just take it as all a plan of the Lord, sometimes it's very hard, Prabhuji. That's why I said I don't have a question, but just a statement. It's really, really hard. And to kind of, just to become that Mahatma or to become that kind of a Goswami and say, let me just ignore, it's all a plan, it's all a drama. It's very, very hard. I'm not taking any of the judgments, but I'm just telling you that there are very many, and I'm sure all of us are reading all of them. And
the best solution is don't waste your time reading all of them.
That's one way of looking, but I'm still in the materialistic world, and some of these have a bearing on someone somewhere who is known to you or related to you. It's very, very hard, Prabhuji. Very, very hard.
It is, but then the thing is that if we say we are still in the material world, we'll always remain in the material world in that way then.
Yeah, but it's so hard, Prabhuji.
We have
somebody like you, an elevated soul, it's easy, but many of us are not.
No, nothing like that. We have to at some point disconnect. Because the thing is very simple. We don't know what all past a particular person is carrying.
Can I interrupt you here?
Just looking at one episode at someone's life, one can really get emotional or sentimental, or one can start rationalizing why this happened, why that happened. But then, if you don't know the whole problem, how can you get to a solution? Not possible.
One interruption here. There are sometimes, you hear how children are brutally treated. Yeah. How does it explain that? What kind of karmic thing would they know that they are carrying? They're innocent. We hear of these kinds of harassment and molestations on children who are as old or as young as 6 months old. There's a question that I've asked every Prabhuji that, whose classes I attend, but it still has remained as a question in my head, and it troubles me a lot. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
That's what I'm saying. No, it will always continue to trouble you because you don't know the past. And you'll never know the past, and if you don't change your approach to such things in life, We'll never get the answer also, Mataji. Because we should know we have come to the world to not just understand how everyone's life is getting affected because of their past karma. That's not our job. That will not help us get our perfection, because we are not in the role of Yamaraj to decide who should be punished how and who should be given the judgment how, because our understanding is very limited. We have not studied their past. We have not done anything. So it's just like, I am not really qualified for that job, but I'm unnecessarily putting myself into that position, trying to understand.
Isn't that being a little khudgars, Hindi they say khudgars?
No, you are just acting the way you are qualified. Otherwise, any person who is in the street will start commenting, the Prime Minister should be doing this, the President should be doing that, Indra should be doing this, Surya should be doing that, Brahmaji did this mistake. Right. But you should be in that position to be able to understand the whole picture and then conclude. In this way, I'm not telling about this particular incident, but I'm just telling about this approach to life. In this way, there will be so many things to waste our time upon. Keep worrying about, like for you, this may be a cause of worry. For someone else, something else may be a cause of worry. For someone else, something else may be a cause of worry. So many things to keep us, concerned about what's happening in life, in the world, because there are hell lot of things going wrong. And if you want to set those things correct, then you can just start thinking about how it will happen. It's not in our control. Rather than looking at what's going wrong around, try to do everything nicely in your own life, because that's under your control, in your influence. But instead of looking at why things are going wrong in others' life, do we ever question, am I doing everything perfectly in my life? Did I treat every single person nicely in my life? Because that's in my control. Instead of doing that, we can waste so much of our time concerned about what is going around. It will not help anyway. We cannot even help those people who are, let's say, getting victims of such things. Can we? We cannot. We cannot help them. Cannot help them. So what scriptures say is that when you see ill treatment around, instead of feeling just sorry for it, make sure that those who are dependent on you, you don't treat them badly. That's what you can do. That's what can be. That is the practical thing to do. And what goes around, you can't have any control in that. Okay, super soul as the ultimate cause gives us the excuse that all our actions have been supervised by the Bhagavan as Upadrashta. Then there's no end to the cycle. Prabhuji, you are studying Bhagavad-gita, so you know super soul is Upadrashta. Do you think every single criminal knows that? And because you know it, so you will not also engage in wrong activities. The knowledge will help you not engage in those activities. Those who don't know, they will definitely engage in wrong activities, right? So what you raise, the point you raised, that's exactly what Krishna tells in the next verses, no? One who has this knowledge will come out of the cycle of karma. And this knowledge will help to come out of the cycle of karma. Right? But for someone who does not know, there's no end to the cycle.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Right? Okay. Now, Nidhi Mataji. Causal cause is Upadan Karana and Prakriti is Nimitta Karana. Yes, Mataji. Upadan Karana is also known as material cause. So in that case, that person's past karma is also material cause, Upadan Karana. Divya Vishwambar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, continuation of that Mataji's question. We cannot be part of that, whatever the happening for the kids or anybody. But likewise, where see, if you see in the Kurukshetra, it happened when Draupadi was disrobed. This has been done by even Bhishma and Dronacharya. They have been killed because they have been watching it, been keeping idle. So in this case, you are telling that we cannot be part of it, means how can we? As Shastra says that when anything goes against the nature, anything anybody is doing this harming to somebody else, like women or old people or kids or anything else, we should act against it, right? Otherwise, we'll get a punishment for that, or we'll be part of that karma. So how do you tell that? How do you relate this?
Yeah, very good. So your question is, if something is happening wrong around us, we should try to help not let that thing not happen, right? So again, is that person with whom it is happening under your care? Are you the authority? If yes, then you should give protection. Like, for example, if someone is coming to attack your child, then you must give protection. Or someone comes to attack your neighbor's child, then you must give protection. But let's say now you're sitting in Shamadesh and someone is attacking some child in Ukraine. What will you do, Prabhuji? Can't do, na? Even if you know about it, can you do? No, right? So we have to know what is my circle. Am I the authority there? If you are the authority, then yes. If you're not the authority, then either you take that child's karma, or you take it as some demoniac elements are unnecessary causing, these activities, whatever may be the cause. But I cannot help it, and if I just feel sorry about it, it's not going to help also in any way, right? And actually, if we feel really sorry about it, it should inspire us to get out of this material world as soon as possible. Because who knows, maybe I'll be that next baby or next child, isn't it? So His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj used to say, don't join the pity party. There's no point in joining the pity party. Do something about it. And if you can't, then there's no point lamenting. So do something in your own area if you can. Yes, we should help if it's in our authority area. Yes, Nagaraj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Doing something then enters back into the karmic cycle.
Doing
something. You just mentioned when you can do something, when you should be doing something, you should do something. Either you can take one of the two approaches. One approach is to get involved and then do something. I.e., a burglar comes to do something to my children, I will do something back to that burglar. So I now have entered into the karmic cycle. But not doing anything also is the wrong thing, because the inaction itself is a karma.
Yes. So where
do we hit the balance?
You can only hit the balance if you are situated in transcendental knowledge. Because if you don't do anything, that brings karma. If you do something, that will also bring karma. Right? So what we have to do then? We have to learn what we discussed in chapter 3, 4, 5. We have to learn the science of akarma. Do and still don't do. That's what Krishna is teaching Arjuna. Fight, kill, and still don't take the sin of killing.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So you have to act, but then you have to act with that knowledge. Now, just in this case, if a child is being attacked, and then you are protecting the child, but then you protect the child and let's say you kill the other person, with the mentality of taking revenge, then that will also bring karma upon you, right? But if you just kill that person because you are trying to protect the child, and it happened that you had to kill that person for self-defense, then then you will not be seen as a karma, So it all depends on how it is done, with what consciousness it is done, what knowledge inspires that action. So acting, not acting, karma will definitely come. Now, in what conscious we act or in what conscious we don't act, that will decide whether there will be no karma or there will be karma, Right?
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes. So now when we talk about Bhishma Pitama, sitting in the assembly of Draupadi and not helping Draupadi, actually Bhishma was not killed for that reason. Bhishma did not die for that reason. That was just a superficial cause for Bhishma's death. Because when we study the character of a great soul like Bhishma Pitama, we should know they have different levels of reality. This is a very superficial, mundane level of reality from the perspective of dharma, that he did not act as per his dharma. But the actual reality is Bhishma did not protect Draupadi because Krishna did not want Bhishma to protect Draupadi. And why Krishna did not want Bhishma to protect Draupadi? Because if Bhishma would have protected Draupadi, how would Draupadi ask Krishna for help? Then how would Draupadi be glorified as someone who took shelter of Krishna? Right? Here, if we think Draupadi is just like me, I am a normal woman, she's also like a normal woman like me, then we are big fools. Draupadi is not a normal woman like me or you. She doesn't suffer the way we feel suffering. She is a liberated soul associate of the Lord. She is coming just to enact a drama, a pastime. And it's a part of the drama that she will be disrobed, and in that situation, she will cry for help to Govinda, and Govinda will come. What will happen? By this incident, what is Krishna doing? Krishna is teaching the whole world for millions of years to come. Take shelter of me, like Draupadi did. If this episode does not happen, how will anyone give example of Draupadi taking shelter of Krishna? And how will we learn that in such situation in life, we have to take shelter of Krishna? And that's what we all are doing when we get into problem. Instead of taking shelter of Krishna, we want to take shelter of everything else. And if someone does not help, then we start blaming. You did not help me. You did not help me. You do not do what you're supposed to do. Right? But Krishna is teaching that you take shelter of me. Now, Draupadi was used to teach that lesson, just like Arjuna was used to teach Bhagavad-gita. Right? And Bhishma Pitama knows that. Why? Because this drama always happens and he knows what role he has to play. He knows the script, no? He knows the script. Every time this drama happens, so he knows the script. He's perfectly playing his role. Right? So we have to understand it from different levels of reality. If Bhishma suddenly jumps into, let's say, the scene, Draupadi, this time I'll change the script. This time I'll save you. What will happen? Krishna is the director of the drama. Next time he will not hire Bhishma to play his role then. He said, Bhishma changed. This person will not become Bhishma again because he's changing the script now. Right? He's going against the director's plan. Right? Okay. So we'll give you a break. Meet after the break.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you
Right.
just gave an example, no, that Prabhuji was asking if somebody is to protect somebody, you take a murder and then you take a revenge. It is karmic reaction is there. It applies for everybody, or this because we have an example in Mahabharata also.
Which example?
This is Arjuna challenged Jayadratha when his son was killed.
Yeah. Arjuna
It's a
challenged
revenge also.
Jayadratha. And then, Arjuna was not able to succeed in fulfilling that challenge. Correct?
Yes.
Right. So Krishna then chastised Arjuna. Why did you make such a challenge? Did you ask me?
Yeah.
He chastised Arjuna. No. Did you ask me before making such a challenge?
But that is not count in such things. But there are so many incidents like that with Bhishma and.
Correct. So in the case of Arjuna doing something like that, or Bhishma Pitama doing something like that, because they are pure devotees of Krishna, Krishna will cover up their mistakes.
Okay.
Right? Krishna will cover up their mistakes. It's a mistake. It's not that it's not a mistake, but because they are pure devotees, Krishna will cover up for them.
Yes,
But in case of ordinary conditioned souls, Krishna is not going to cover up for them. Got it?
Okay. Okay.
Hare Krishna. All right, so let's take a break. Meet after the break. welcome back. So now we'll discuss the result of this knowledge. Like Nagaraj Prabhu said, there won't be any end to this cycle, but yes, it can be ended by having this knowledge. So this is mentioned in verses 24, 25, 26. We already discussed verse number 24. Look at 25 now. I'll go a bit fast now because I want to complete the chapter today. Some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. Dhyanena atmani pashyanti kechidatmanam atmana anya sankhena yogena karma yogena chapare. So the super soul can be realized by either of these three processes, either by Ashtanga Yoga, mentioned in chapter 6 of Gita, or through Jnana Yoga, which is being discussed now in chapter 13, or through Karma Yoga, which was discussed in chapter 3, 4, and 5, or Nishkam Karma Yoga. Means one will come to Paramatma realization through all these three paths. It is possible through each of these different paths. And if one is not able to come through these three paths, then there is the next one, which is the most easy. Anye tve vam ajanantaha shrutvan upasate tepi chati tarantyeva mrityum shruti parayanaha. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. So this is the path of bhakti. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. By hearing, just by hearing, they can get all this knowledge. How it functions? It is wiser to learn from experience, but it is wiser yet to learn from the experience of others. It is less painful too. So by hearing, you learn from the experience of others, which saves time. Saves time. You get to know the same thing, the same right information or knowledge, but because of just hearing from others who know. Next section, eyes of knowledge. Jnana chakshushaha. Or jnana chakshush means one who knows these three things. How does he or she look at the world? That's described here. Verse 27. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam sthavara jangamam kshetra kshetragya samyoga tad vidhi bharatarshava. O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, like trees, plants, mountains, stones, these are non-moving, and others, reptiles, insects, beasts, humans moving, is only a combination of the field of activities, which is body, material nature, and the knower of the field, which means the living entity, soul, and also the super soul. So everything is a combination of these two energies, material energy and spiritual energy. Next verse. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishthantam parameshwaram vinashyat svinashvantam yaha pashyati sapashyati. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed actually sees. One sees in this way. One who sees this all, right? Let's read the purport here. The short one. Someone please volunteer. Yes, we have Anit Mataji with us.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anyone? Is it echoing?
Is it echoing?
No, it's fine. Anyone? Yes, correct.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Yes, it is echoing, Prabhuji.
Yeah, it is echoing for me too.
Yeah, it is echoing.
Are you sure? You can go.
I'll try once again. Anyone who by good association can see three things combined together, the body, the proprietor of the body or individual soul, and the friend of the individual soul, is actually in knowledge. Unless one has the association of real knower of spiritual subjects, one cannot see these three things. Those who do not have such association are ignorant. They simply see the body and they think that when the body is destroyed, everything is finished. But actually, it is not so. After the destruction of the body, both the soul and the supersoul exist, and they go on eternally in many various moving and non-moving forms. The Sanskrit word Parameshwara is sometimes translated as the individual soul, because the soul is the master of the body, and after the destruction of the body, he transfers to another form. In that way, he is master. But there are others who interpret this Parameshwara to be the supersoul. In either case, both the supersoul and the individual soul continue. They are not destroyed. One who can see in this way can actually see what is happening. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So here Srila Prabhupada says that one should see these three things combined together. Generally, people only see the body. So knowledge helps us to expand the horizon of our thinking. Learning from a genuine guru always expands the horizon of our thinking and understanding. It takes us from incomplete to complete knowledge. That's what happens. Okay, let's look at the next verse now. Next verse is Samam pashyan hi sarvatra samavasthitam ishwaram na hinasyat yatmanatmanam tato yati param gatim. One who sees the supersoul equally present everywhere, in every living being, does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination. Approaches the transcendental destination. So this is a very interesting line. Requires some thinking. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, if one can see the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living thing, he does not degrade himself by a destructive mentality, and he therefore gradually advances to the spiritual world. How does this happen? Give a practical example. That one who sees the super soul in every living thing will not destroy or will become free from destructive mentality. How will this happen?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, a very simple thing that when mosquitoes bite us, we tend to kill them, right? So, but when we start looking that, okay, that's the food is provided to them by this, and then we have to keep our protection better than killing them. We have to use the other way to protect. So then that also helps us keep the Paramatma is there. And so instead of killing and instead of stopping its cycle, we should protect ourselves by other means. So this is just a small example which came into my mind.
Okay, good. Nagaraj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I cannot remember the exact name of the saint, but a saint, I think it was Eknath Maharaj from Maharashtra. He was one morning taking bath in the river just before going and worshipping God. And at that time, some guy, a nasty guy came, and then he started spitting on Eknath Maharaj. And Eknath Maharaj ji, instead of shouting at him or getting angry with him, he just went back, took bath, and started going back to the temple again. And that guy kept repeating the same spitting action and assaultative action on this man 11 times. And 11 times, Eknath Maharaj ji just took bath, just forgave him, and went back to worshipping God. And that guy in the end got tired, and he just walked away. So here, if Eknath Maharaj ji had embarked on a revenge attack on that man or got angry, even mentally, he would have created the karma. That is destructive mentality. And I think forgiving and letting go was because of his God consciousness.
Thank you. Okay, Ashok Prabhu.
Prabhuji, my view is that when he thinks that Supreme Personality of Godhead as Super Soul is in every living being, then probably he will stop identifying himself with the matter. When he sees spirit in all other people, so he will stop identifying himself with the matter and he will be more inclined towards spirituality. That is how he will go to the spiritual world.
Okay, fine, good. Arati Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, if somebody is misbehaving or ill-treating or something, if we understand that presence of the Supreme Personality in that person and understand because of his past or his karmic, his karma, he's behaving in a certain way, then we don't degrade ourselves and we'll be able to move on. That is what.
Okay. So why will you just see that person's karma? We should also see our karma, no? Like, for example, someone is shouting at you or insulting you. So if I see the super soul in that person's heart and I see the super soul in my heart, then I would also know that person is shouting me and the super soul is allowing it, which means that I'm supposed to be insulted here now because that's my past karma and it's coming to me. The super soul is sanctioning it, So those who are advanced souls, this is how they become very, very tolerant. Prahlad Maharaj, when he was being thrown off the cliff, he saw super soul even in the person who was throwing him. And he was thinking, if my Lord Krishna is allowing this person to push me off the cliff, so that's what the Lord wants from me, that I should be thrown off. So I accept it. Right? So when we become a victim of something wrong done to us, this knowledge will help us to see the bigger picture. And when we are when we are taking the initiative, again, we'll be cautious that, you see, if I do something wrong, the super soul is watching me, the super soul is also watching the other person, and the super soul is taking a record of it. So I should not do the wrong thing. So whether you initiate the wrong, the super soul's presence and that knowledge will stop us from that destructive mentality. And if we are becoming the experiencer of such thing, then it will also stop us from taking revenge, that understanding that the super soul is present. Now, you may say, well, in this way, so much of injustice will go around. But we should know one thing, that for someone who knows this knowledge and sees with this knowledge is different from someone who does not know this knowledge and doesn't see with this knowledge. For someone who knows this knowledge and sees with this knowledge, that person will not go through any kind of injustice. Why? Because that person's karma is different from those people who are going through all insane and horrible experiences in life. Right? So when we study Bhagavad-gita and when we study these verses, we should know that these verses apply subjectively, not objectively. You understand the difference? They don't apply objectively. They apply subjectively. Like, for example, the soul is not the doer. This is not an objective thing. It is a subjective thing. How it is subjective thing? The soul is not the doer when the soul is a liberated soul.
Prabhuji, can you give a practical example?
But the soul is the doer when the soul is a conditioned soul. So for example, okay, when you say practical example, like let's take the example we were discussing before, Draupadi. Draupadi going through that experience in the assembly of Kurus trying to disrobe her. Let's put someone else in the position of Draupadi. Any XYZ in the position of Draupadi. So the situation is the same, the experience is the same, the act is the same, the event is the same, But then both of these personalities will have a different subjective take on it. Why? Because both of their consciousness is not the same. right? So here in the scripture, when it says that, like I give the example, the soul does not do anything. Do you think it applies to all? No. It applies to them who understand that the soul does not do anything. But who are engrossed in thinking, I do everything, it does not apply to them. For them, the soul does everything. And they will suffer or enjoy the reactions of karma. You know? So it's a subjective thing, right? So that's why when we study the scriptural statements, it's one statement, but it is going to apply differently to different people who are reading that statement. Why? Because these different people are coming from a different level of consciousness. It won't be the same. It won't be the same. So one who sees the Paramatma in the hearts of everyone, that person will be able to become free from destructive mentality. But one who does not see Paramatma in everyone's heart, they will never be able to become free from that mentality. It's a subjective experience.
Prabhuji,
So,
then it becomes so difficult to take any tough decisions, no? Because you're seeing Paramatma in everyone. So if you have to take some tough decisions, how do you do that?
You see, when you will see Paramatma in everyone's body, then that will not be a tough decision. Because you don't see, so that's why it's a tough decision. Right? Now, we can imagine I want to see, I am seeing, I will start thinking that I am seeing, but that is not seeing. But one who will start seeing, then it will not be a tough decision. Right? Like, for example, when I am not Prahlad Maharaj, for me, it's going to be very difficult if someone throws me off the cliff. Right? It will not be easy. Someone puts me in a pot of snakes, or boiling oil, right? Then it will be very tough because I am not Prahlad Maharaj. So for that situation, I will not be able to act like Prahlad Maharaj. But when he is put into that situation because of his consciousness, he is acting in that manner. Right? So one who sees like that, for that person, this becomes an experience. One who does not see like that, then this is not the experience. Then the experience is the way we are. Right? The way we are, the experience will be like that. Subjective. It will be subjective. Like, for example, Satatam Kirtayanto Maham Yatantascha Dirvata, Bhagavad-gita says, always remember Krishna. Now, if we are told always remember Krishna, we'll say, oh, it is impractical, so difficult. But you ask Prabhupada, very easy. So it's easy for him because he is Prabhupada. His consciousness is like that. But for us, it's very difficult. So it's a subjective reality. All right. So here, one who is on that platform, who sees the super soul everywhere, will become free from destructive mentality, will be able to tolerate, will not take revenge, would not want to take revenge. Just like Arjuna here is tolerating. I don't want to fight Krishna. He's tolerating. Prahlad Maharaj tolerated. So many pure souls tolerated. And they will also not initiate something which will cause pain to others. Next verse. 30. Prakriti-prakriti-eva cha karmani kriyamana nisarvashaha yaha pashyati tathatmanam akartaram sapashyati. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. You see, sees that the self does nothing. So one who sees that will not do anything. But one who does not see that will become the cause of doing everything. So one who does not see, it's again a subjective thing. A soul who sees that I am not doing anything is the soul who does not do anything. Means no karma. But the soul who does not see that and the soul thinks I am doing everything, then the soul actually then becomes the cause of the action and starts getting the results of the action, karma. Again, it's a subjective thing. One who sees like that will be able to, will be experiencing like that. Yaha pashyati tathatmanam akartaram pashyati. So this is to promote humility, basically. One who is disconnected from the material body, he actually does nothing. He simply observes, or she simply observes. But a conditioned soul does see that I am doing everything. And therefore, a conditioned soul becomes a doer. Now, how does a liberated soul see? What is the vision? That vision is explained here, and it's called Brahman vision. Verse 31 talks about it. How does that person see is given in verse 32. And in verse 33 and 34, Krishna gives an example of how it actually becomes possible. That disconnected yet connected. So 31. Yada bhuta prithak bhavam ekastham anupashyati tata eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. Brahman conception means Brahman vision. Brahman vision means instead of looking the external varieties, the person sees the homogeneous unity, oneness. That's called Brahman vision. Right? The more one comes out of these differences, external differences, then the more one sees that real thing. So one who is at this level of vision, for that person, the innocent and the guilty, the man and the woman, they're all same. All same. Because that person sees them as the spirit soul. Like in the drama, one may take a negative role and the other may take a positive role. But after all, who are they? Who are they? They are just actors, artists, taking the negative, taking the positive, becoming a hero, becoming a villain. But actually, they are all artists. So a person who is on Brahman platform, he or she sees this level of reality. This level of reality. And the person who is conditioned, instead of seeing this level of reality, that person gets engrossed in the reality which is being performed on the stage. And just sees at that reality. And then looking at that reality, that person laughs or cries. And this person, he comes back a little bit to a different level of reality. These are the artists. One is behaving a nice manner, the other is behaving a wrong manner. So they say differently. Next verse. Anaditva nirgunatvat paramatmayam avyayaha sharirastho pi kaunteya na karoti na lipyate. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So this is the vision on Brahman platform, and we are not at that vision. So it's not expected for us to be on this vision immediately. This is the result, perfection of one's spiritual life, that one comes to this kind of vision, and one is able to see in this manner, right? So those who are liberated souls, they are on this platform. Next verse, Krishna gives an example. Now, how does that person act? It's connected and disconnected. Yatha sarvagatam sokshmyat akasham nopalipyate sarvatra avasthito dehe tathatma nopalipyate. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body. Now, that clause is there. The soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body. But the soul which is not situated in Brahman vision thinks I am the body. So who's situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, just like the sky does not mix with any element, though the soul is situated in that body. Someone please read the purport here quickly.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Raise your hand, please. Snehal Mataji.
Hare Krishna, purport: the air enters into water, mud, stool, and whatever else is there. Still, it does not mix with anything. Similarly, the living entity, even though situated in varieties of bodies, it is aloof from them due to his subtle nature. Therefore, it is impossible to see with the material eyes how the living entity is in contact with this body and how he is out of it after the destruction of the body. No one in science can ascertain this. Thank you. Thank you.
Next verse. Though it is now disconnected like the sky, still it influences the body. Yatha prakashyatyekah kritsnam lokam imam ravihi kshetram kshetri tatha kritsnam prakashayati bharata. O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. So a simple example, electricity runs through the electrical appliance and then it makes the appliance hot or cold. But the electricity in itself does never become hot or cold, right? It only causes that effect in the appliance. Similarly, the soul in the body makes the body function, but the body's functions don't affect the soul. Just like the sky is not affected by any other element wherever the sky is present. It does not get affected. So the soul does not get affected. This is Sukshma Shakti, subtle energy of the soul. So that subtle energy, it's able to function like this. Very nice purport. You can read it later if you have not. Last verse. Kshetra kshetra gayorevam antaram jnanam chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye viduryanti te param. Those who see with eyes of knowledge, and that's how we should learn to see. Right? Srila Prabhupada used to say, Shastra yonitvat. Our knowledge and our experience and our understanding should be based on not just the senses, but the knowledge that we get from the scriptures. We should see in that way. Srila Prabhupada saw like that. People told him, you see, man went to the moon. This is the evidence. This is the video. And Prabhupada said, no. The scriptures say not possible, so not possible. You may say so, but the scriptures say not possible, so not possible. Right? You may say so, it's the man has gone. But the scriptures say something else. So we believe in what the scriptures say because that is Krishna's Vani. It has to be correct, unconditionally. Same thing in scriptures, we come to know that the earth, it is it's not flat, it's bhugol, but then some people, they said no, earth is flat, and later on then who was that person who went around and then he found that no, it's round, it's not flat? What was the name of that person? Someone remembers? Columbus?
Galileo.
Neil Armstrong.
Galileo.
Columbus.
Yeah. So Neil Armstrong was the one who went to the moon. Galileo or Columbus, whatever. So then he went around and he proved, no, it's not flat, it is circular. But it was already given in the scriptures, bhugol, it is circular, spherical in nature. So Shastra, what says, we see the world through those eyes. Jnana chakshusha, that's how you see the world. That person can understand the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage and material nature and attain to the supreme goal. The purport of this 13th chapter is that one should know the distinction between the body, the owner of the body, and the super soul. One should recognize the process of liberation as described in verses 8 to 12. Then one can go on to the supreme destination. A faithful person should at first have some good association to hear of God and thus gradually become enlightened. If one accepts a spiritual master, one can learn to distinguish between matter and spirit, and that becomes the stepping stone for further spiritual realization. A spiritual master, by various instructions, teaches his students to get free from the material concept of life. For instance, in Bhagavad-gita, we find Krishna instructing Arjuna to free him from materialistic considerations. And then Sripad gives a summary of what is explained in the chapter. So thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose to the 13th chapter. We'll end here. Thank you very much. Any last one or two questions we can take? Gita Mata.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. We were discussing about seeing the super soul in everybody and being tolerant, but sometimes being tolerant is seen as the weakness of the person who is trying to be tolerant. You know, they all the time they target him, then he or she is considered as weak.
Yes. So being tolerant doesn't mean that you allow the person to keep on offending you, because you know that it's also harmful for that person if that person is doing it again and again. So being tolerant means that if it has happened once with you, you excused. If it happens again with you, you excused. If it has happened third time with you, you excuse. But then when it happens fourth time with you, then you don't excuse. Then you tell that person, this is wrong. I'll make an arrangement. So that's called being tolerant. Because if you don't stop that person, then that person may go overboard. And that will be harmful to that person. Right? So you don't let that person do that. Don't allow that person to go overboard. So you draw a boundary line. Okay.
Thank you. Correct.
But side by side, we should have a clear vision in our mind that we should not have the grudges against that person. Right? If we have the grudges, we are not, speaking anything, but we have the grudges inside our mind. It will again make a karmic reaction, right?
Yes, it will happen. So we have to give away those grudges also in due course of time. Yes, Srinivas Gopal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Babuji, in this 34th sloka, the illumination of the entire body by consciousness, this consciousness decides the memory of the body, means the full body, or because when a person when he has a full body and later on he has got accident or amputated, then he still feels and he gets nightmare that he still feels that his leg or hand is still there, because if you say that the soul have conscious entire body's consciousness, and the conscious body is decided by the consciousness, then how he has still feeling that he has still the leg is there or the hand is still there in his memory.
I did not get the question.
Prabhuji, that because we say that the soul is illuminating the entire body by the consciousness, correct?
Yes.
Yes. When the body is not there, then illumination is not there. The consciousness is not there, correct?
Body is not there. In which situation body is not there?
Like you have an accident and the hand got amputated or leg got amputated.
So yeah, there is no consciousness there because there is no hand.
Yeah, there is no physical this thing, and therefore there's no consciousness. But the person who has got amputated, he still feels that he has hand and he has leg.
Feels
Even
where?
if it, because he acts like that. Because he's
No,
sometimes
feels where, when? In a dream or in the awakened state?
means he feels that the hand is there.
In the awakened state or in the dream
The
state?
vacant state. In the
In the
vacant
awakened state.
state, mistakes like he feels that his hand is still there.
No, now when you say he feels that, I don't understand how you're describing that experience. Feeling the hand, it is there. You say that may be just a mental creation, that because I had the experience of having a hand for so many years, so I still think that my hand is there. But actually it's not there, right? It is just a memory. It's just a memory. It was something which was experienced by you in the past.
Yeah.
So it is stored as an impression in the mind.
Yeah, but why it is not reversed? Like the consciousness doesn't have, why it is not affecting the mind?
Because the mind is also conscious, no? Means the mind is also getting the supply of consciousness.
Mind is not independent soul consciousness. When the soul consciousness,
mind's activity is thinking, feeling, and willing. So that gets initiated by the energy of consciousness. So it's not that you are actually having a hand. In the mind, in the memory, you are thinking you are having a hand.
yeah, but when the consciousness is reduced, when it is amputated, then
How
that
is the
should
consciousness reduced, Prabhuji? Is the influence of consciousness gone from the hand? Just take the example of electricity. Now, at your house, you get a supply of electricity of some particular voltage, right? Isn't it? Now, if you switch off the light in some of the rooms, do you think the voltage will reduce?
that will not reduce, but
It's just that you have disconnected the influence of electricity from those electrical appliances.
yeah, but who's disconnecting, it will be known to the knower, no? The disconnection
It will be known to the knower, but when the knower is not perfect, we are talking about conditioned soul. Conditioned soul, one characteristic is that conditioned soul falls in illusion. 4 defects are there, no, of a conditioned soul.
Yeah.
What is that one defect? Illusion, to be in illusion. So to be in illusion means what? You don't know the reality. Now, if someone is a liberated soul, in the liberated state, then that person will be perfect knower. Then a liberated soul does not get these kind of mental experiences that I had a hand and now the hand, No, that person is very much aware of the reality. Conditioned soul is an illusion, so what else do you expect?
But I was thinking maybe physically that like it's like a magnetic flux, like he still feels it is there, like that.
No, it's not like that. It's not that because the consciousness was flowing there. So once the hand is cut, still that influence is there. It's not there. One is just feeling so, right? But if you attach something to the hand, then again, because of that energy of consciousness, the hand will be able to use it, Like people, when they put artificial limbs, artificial hands and legs, so they are able to use it again, like a normal hand or a normal leg. So it's not exactly the same, but still it does some job to some extent, So the consciousness provides that ability, that function to the hand, the cut hand also, that you can use the other as a tool, as an instrument, extend it to that device. So it's like you can expand it and you can contract it. As the body keeps on growing and growing and growing, the consciousness expands. And as the body becomes, let's say, cut or destroyed, then the consciousness contracts. But the expansion of the body has got no relation on affecting the consciousness or its quality. No effect. Like I told about electricity, it has no effect on how big a refrigerator or air conditioner or geyser you connect to the electricity. It doesn't affect the electricity. All right, Usha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in verse 23, I was a little confused about the definition of marginal energy. We are the marginal energies. So is it that because we are sometimes situated in the spiritual mode and sometimes we are in the material energy, so that is why we are known as marginal?
Because marginal means because it has a tendency to be under the control of either the material energy or the spiritual energy. Marginal.
Okay, it's just like the bank tathastha energy. So we are sometimes.
Tathastha is translated in English as marginal.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
David Prabhu.
Prabhuji, should I ask?
Hare Krishna, please.
Okay.
Hare
David
Krishna,
Prabhu.
please. Accept my humble obeisances. I have this question, which I want to ask is a little bit longer. I don't know if you have time. If I can bring it here, or if it's okay.
Is it related to what we discussed now?
It's concerned about karma and offenses.
Okay.
Or if not, I can ask you privately if it's okay.
Yeah, you can ask me on WhatsApp also. No problem.
Okay, so I can do it here now, or
WhatsApp, you send me a message on WhatsApp.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. All right, see you in the next week, Saturday. We'll start chapter 14. I'll send the quiz tomorrow. Hare Krishna.